Hello, my fellow nerds, and welcome to the Nerd Empire. I hope you all are having a fantastic day today, and I hope you all will enjoy today's reaction video. With that being said, let's get right into it, shall we?
Alright, next one. It's called I Hate Everything About This Infection. I have no idea what this is about. I just saw the thumbnail and it looked interesting. So let's see what this is about.
Hey, so let's have a talk for a minute. Last Victim 666, Greasy Beastie, and Ray Ray Ghost. If you guys ever suggest anything, I should 666.
Can you please do the movie Zeum? I think that's what it is.
Greasy Beastie and Ray Ray Ghost. If you guys ever suggest anything I should cover on this channel again, I'm just gonna nuke the whole thing from orbit. As humanity has burned through its resources, it turns out it was not one of our most baller of moves. As the planet's temperature increased, large swaths of animals would die out, and the oceans would largely become toxic. This would be continually putting pressure on the food web as humanity struggled to find stability in this new, harsher era. Eventually, though, a food source would be found that should have been destroyed as of yesterday, but nobody listens to Roanoke. Deep in the depths of the ocean, a species has survived that seems to be a perfect solution for humanity's food scarcity. However, upon eating it, there appears to be a bit of a genetic bleed over, leading to ravenous mutated humans. So in today's episode, let's discuss the main...
God, look at that face. I think most of the world would probably flood if the degree of the planet went up a couple of... If the planet went up a couple of degrees, basically the entire world would be flooded.
fish infection that I actually agree.
Oh. You know, here's the thing. For me, I never thought I would ever have an Oshi. I never thought I would have one. Because I thought it was just to me. But I finally have found somebody that is mine. For me, mine would be Smugalana. I would have to say she's probably my favorite female VTuber. She's very grounded, and her thinking process is very logical, and it's realistic. So I love Smugalana. I watch her videos every day.
We do need to detonate that building to keep these things from spreading. We kick off today's story with scientists being concerned. When are those nerds ever not concerned? The answer is never. I am always and will always be concerned about everything, because I guess it just comes with the territory, I believe. Basically, greenhouse gases are rising, things are getting warmer, fish are dying off due to bacteria being released off the polar ice caps, food is dwindling, and it looks like everyone is pretty much boned. Also, my concern is actually more in line with the megaviruses being released into the general population. As
they're within the ice caps and everything. There are a lot of bacterias, viruses, and other infectious shit that are frozen in there that we have no idea what it does, what it is, what it's made of, what it can do. But there is probably one in there that would wipe out humanity because we would have no way to fight against it. So if everything melts, then yeah, I'd say humanity is pretty well and truly fucked.
They have hundreds of thousands of base pairs genetics compared to the thousands.
Mine is Pocket Poco. Don't know why I always come back, but she is a nice and some cutesy streamer.
Of base pair genetics most modern day viruses actually have. You know, more genetics, more abilities, they say. Granted, the viruses have not interacted with us, so it's not like immediately a guaranteed infection, but we have seen viruses jump species, so it's not like it's impossible. But best not to worry about it. I'm sure that's a 8 years problem, or at least 8 years from now problem. A ship has wrecked. Everyone appears to be taking stuff from that barge. A radio transmission goes out about how, because of their isolation, well, they're still pretty much good to go, and everyone else is screwed. Yeah, I'm not really sure that's how it works, big dog, but okay. Also, when has Thailand ever been considered in isolation? They're literally right next to everyone else, like landlocked. Well, I don't think they're landlocked, but they're definitely, there's like land connecting them to like mainland Asia. Anyways, very confused, but moving on. Having a dream where you see your wife early in the morning as you lay there, you know the one, where she keeps saying your name, and then you wake up in a cold sweat, those are an absolute classic. I don't have those, but we all know the trope, and because we all know the trope, this means she is most definitely not in the land of the living. Two men drive along a barren field in orange infrastructure as it's looking a little warm out today. Finding their path blocked, they decide to go around it, but it's an ambush, except they don't go around it, they just kind of pull over and sit there as Singh starts beating the holy hell out of everyone. Hell yeah, brother. Does anybody, have a force multiplier in the future? It seems like it'd be a little easier than just going like mono E several. So
Just the pose he's doing with the gun.
opening up the back of the truck, they start breaking in as the driver finally decides to help out as he attacks the other guy and then closes up the truck once more. Dude just straight up third-partied. As we get the title card, Zayam. At a boxing stadium, yes, it's all making sense now. He's a boxer, except he's not. He does Muay Thai. Why did they put it as boxing? That's not his thing, unless Muay Thai is used in boxing. All I ever hear is people say when they see red, bodies drop, probably because it's Alabama bar and nobody here.
Now, Muay Thai it's not used in boxing, but it is used in UFC.
Is classically trained. Everyone is going Mad Max style over clean water as people in general are trying to survive the intense heat of the day. As civil disturbances are talked about, a woman then writes in the mirror about working Friday and going out Monday. That's just the standard, I guess, weekend of anybody in the health field. Bug bars are being created for people to eat because they have protein, not so much delicious, as some of the crates aren't accepted by the drop-off point due to them being damaged. Also, fun fact for you, we actually have machines that can pull, I think it was like 40 metric tons of carbon dioxide out of the air right now, like per year. They're expensive, but if everything becomes too screwed up, in theory, we could create a bunch of those, or I don't know, just go outside and plant a tree. It's not gonna fix everything, and I mean, technically a tank of phytoplankton would be better, but that's way less cool than a tree. For reference, 50 to 80% of Earth's oxygen actually comes from phytoplankton, utilizing CO2 in the air that mixes with water. So, I mean, I guess I don't know, maybe we could just have giant tanks of phytoplankton. Anyways, heading back to home base, Singh is given a bike as they look into the crate and find fish. Deciding to split the fish, oh God, what kind of fish is that? Diabolical. I get desperate times, man.
Okay, look, yeah.
About
I was about to say it looks like one of those lantern fish, like, you know, in the deep ocean. That's what it looks like. You know, like that one from Finding Nemo.
Plumbing it
Anglerfish, I think they're called.
with these things. A man then starts talking about how man could rise again as the fish they are eating is safe. How do they know this? Well, who's to say? Also, I just want to point out, I'm going to spoil something here real quick. Singh and his girlfriend Rin, they talk about moving up north. There's farmland up there. Why are you eating these things? Anyways, apparently his business venture is going to feed the whole world as the man then starts convulsing and throwing up blood. Now that's not a good sign. Best laid plans of mice and men, I suppose. Time to throw up that fish that you just ate immediately, rest of the business partners, because that kind of shows it ain't good. As Singh then heads home, oh, look at that. I guess his wife is alive. What was the purpose of the whole thing seeing her in the early morning light scene?
I think he was dreaming of a better and more peaceful time.
Dropping the fish off and not even remotely trying to refrigerate it, yeah, I'm sure that'll be good to eat later, she cleans his stylish face wound, as then she tells him to think about how she feels. He hasn't been home in days and she's rather upset. I mean, you do gotta eat, right? This is his job. I mean, just don't eat that thing that you brought home. Let's keep it real here. That fish isn't even worth being on this planet. If I'm being completely honest with you, why would you eat it? Disgusting. You'll never be forgiven, last victim 666. You did this. Rin goes to head into work as he tells her to come home as soon as she can. Yes, she'll be home in a few days, it seems. Y'all gotta eat, right? So in an effort to not overtax the power grid, power is then shut off at 8 p.m. But you know, you wouldn't need an electrical source for hearing things, as today's episode is sponsored by a battery-operated earbud. But first, this episode is sponsored by Raycon. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/RoanokeBC to get 20% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/RoanokeBC. Remember what it was like to be young and do back-to-school shopping? I vaguely remember it. I believe it was around the time the dinosaurs got wiped out. But this fall, it could be back to cool. Because Raycon's bone conduction headphones are a must-have this year, delivering off-the-ear audio using vibrations to send sound straight through the bones of your head, which means your ears stay open to the world around you while still hearing crystal clear music, podcasts, or calls. Actually, writing this right now and recording, I'm listening to music while still hearing everything else around me. It's actually pretty crazy. You can continue on conversations with literally zero issue with these bad boys, which means you can listen to lectures in class and still also also listen to music. The multitasking these bone conductors
I don't think I'd be able to do that because I can't listen to two things trying to talk to me at once. I cannot do that. I've tried it. I can't do it.
headphones offer is absolutely wild. Grocery shopping, zoning out, sitting in traffic, working on a car, all can be done safely as you can hear the world around you. Not to mention, with 13 hours of battery life, IP68 waterproof and dustproof design, and a no-bud fit that doesn't slip but at half the cost. I've been using these actually out on hikes, which doubles as a mountain biking trail, so I actually can hear somebody coming up on me while still listening to music. It's fantastic. So if you are in the market to buy something like that, because it sounds like a good idea to you, then click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/roanoke.bc.
I can't. I tried. I tried at work. What I would keep. I have like one earbud in, so I'd have like the light novel that I listen to, which is Catastrophic Necromancer. I'm listening to that while someone is trying to talk to me, and I miss some of the story that's going on in my ear because I'm focusing on listening to the person talking to me. I cannot listen to two things at once because if I try to listen to one thing, the other thing just gets blocked out. Or if I listen to the thing in my ear, whoever's talking to me gets blocked out. I literally cannot multitask with hearing.
20% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/RoanokeBC. As Rin boards a truck to go somewhere, a woman then asks about if they had a fight again. She confirms, but that was a fight? It was more like a low-energy disagreement at worst, probably because it's just so hot outside. At the hospital, this youngling then follows Rin around, and I'm not really sure if that's just how things work here. Like, is he supposed to be in the...
I have to because it's... The throwing system isn't working. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. I even uninstalled and reinstalled it. It's still not working. So I don't know why it's not working, and I can't figure it out. So until it fixes itself with an update or something, throwing is not going to be coming back. So...
areas where patients are sick. Evidently, Rin is a surgeon, as then she heads up to the OR for the night, as a director tells her to come up to the 10th floor instead, just completely ignoring her surgery rotation. Heading to a restricted room, one guy is convulsing on the gurney, as this kind of concerns Rin, but what's wrong? You haven't seen what happens to a man when he decided that literal monster meat was a good idea to eat? Phrasing on that one, which it turns out that this is Scarface, as then they give him oxygen and he chills out as they see his body is riddled with what appears to be parasites. This is actually fairly common, believe it or not, because in the United States, there technically is no fresh, never frozen type of fish that you can get from commercial sales. I mean, if you go out and you fish, or like you eat at a friend's house who fishes, yeah, you can get like fresh fish, but if you get it from like a store or a restaurant, it is required by law to be frozen first. Well, why, you may be asking? This is actually going to kill all the parasites inside of the fish, so that when you eat the fish, you're also eating parasites, which is pretty meta, as the creature that's stealing nutrition subsequently is then turned into nutrition. GG parasites, get good. Not good game, but get good. However, if you go over to other countries, they may or may not have similar rules, so if the fish over there is never frozen, it will likely taste better, but the chances of getting parasites are extremely high, because, by comparison, they're infinitely high, because here there are no parasites that are alive in the fish. Just something to be aware of. So administering CPR to Scarface, he continues to convulse. A man is meeting with Rin to ask if fish liver could help improve his wife's condition. Seems like he's looking for specific vitamins like A and D and maybe some E and B vitamins, but the main one being omega-3 fatty acids. I'm pretty sure a hospital that is even remotely functional like this one, given they are administering aid, should basically have all of this already. I don't think fish liver is going to suddenly cure your wife from a coma, bro, but he's determined, saying surely his food wouldn't hurt anyone. What an odd thing to say. Made even more odd by the fact that Scarface is flatlining out in the other room. As his eyes change, his heart restarts, which is fairly interesting, as he is now back up in action. The company claims the fish they have are safe, and they base this assumption on absolutely nothing. Standard company activity as Scarface then runs out and starts biting people. Meanwhile, Boxer Extraordinaire puts up a photo of, I think, him and his girlfriend, as randomly an announcement goes out of how something happened at the hospital. Why the whole city would need to be informed of that is beyond me, but I'm guessing it's maybe just
if it ain't frozen fish, don't eat
the announcement guy's first
Yeah.
day, and he wanted to tell everyone what was going on. So everyone's like, well, nothing else is going on, so they go to check it out, as there is an anglerfish in a bowl in somebody's house, again, diabolically disgusting, as they all want to go into the hospital? Okay, so a SWAT member is thrown from up high as another girl fell into the ground as she immediately begins attacking team member number 2. This armor is useless, why do we even wear it? Getting bit, he then domes the girl as everyone begins noping out of the area. The security personnel forces kind of realize what's going on as then they force everyone back into the hospital as clearly this is a containment issue. Actually, pretty quick response on that one and figuring it out. Nicely done, guys. So as an infected then runs in, the security guard is squaring up as nobody tries to help him or anything. He's able to actually hold off the infected, but again, the hospital is overwhelmed with everyone getting bitten. Luckily, Rin is hiding in the director's office, which is storage room adjacent, I guess. He then tells her not to leave him here, but sometimes in life, you gotta go get help. Again, is the director's office the storage closet? I really can't tell. It appears as though someone was laying on the ground in there, and they're now back up in action, and looking for the director, he has turned and is snacking on a woman witch. Rin at this point is completely noping out of there as someone is yelling Rin over the intercoms. Singh is calling out on the intercom as all over the hospital, everyone is catching hands and teeth. The power went out, so the intercom is now dead, except the power is still on in other parts of the building. I have no idea why the intercom stopped working, as Singh then starts squaring up on everyone. Brother, it's all kicking at this point because you do not want to cut your knuckle on some teeth, and that's actually how most people end up with infections after fights.
Oh my god. that punching and blocking is just anime brought in real life. So dumb.
Taking out the disorderlies, he then starts going hardcore Henry on everyone. Also, how is this youngling still alive? Well, by his precociousness, of course. So he keeps opening up curtains that contain the infected and running from one with spinal issues. He's able to hide, but now she's on the ground. Brother, get up and run. Singh then grabs it and starts hitting them in the head because the brain controls everything. Like, that's what the kid yelled. We know the brain controls everything. So this youngling is going to need therapy after seeing all this. Actually, after watching this movie, it's nothing but years of therapy. Security guard is holding it down for real, and he's just completely surrounded by cowards. Again, he's a real one. This random youngling is then calling out for their mother as she heads outside, and the security guard goes like, hey, she's not infected, and then he gets domed, which seems a little overzealous there, guys, as then she gets domed. Okay, so security now joins team needs extensive therapy after this event, so a meeting is then held as they realize despite knowing nothing about what's happening inside, they need to detonate the support pillars of the building. And I would call the building what it is, but I'm pretty sure you can't say detonate and then its name in the same sentence. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume Google would be upset about that. But why exactly do they need to detonate the pillars? Because somehow they have worked out without knowing really almost anything that the hospital is lost and all the zombies are in there and bad times are ahead if they escape. Wait till you see these things and what the people become. I totally get their plight. They will do it.
I don't know if I know why you domed the one dude that was holding his own with a baton. That was this. I actually kind of want to see this movie. It looks interesting. But this is such a weird way to get a zombie is through fish. Angler fish at that. It is so weird. But you know, fantasy world, but still it's weird. But take out the entire building. I mean, there's only a limited number of people inside the building. You have enough ammo to go in and basically dome all the zombies and just leave it at that. And just burn it. Burn all the bodies.
For the greater good. Which, brother, I don't know. It's a little hasty, don't you think? Actually, I wrote that. That was 2 days ago, Roanoke saying that. Current Roanoke agrees with the plan entirely. Past Roanoke was a bleeding heart. The idea of living with a mangler fish offends me. Go ahead, detonate the pillars. Everything has calmed down for a second in the hospital as clearly everyone who is left alive at this point is hiding. Rin is on her own now as some who were recently turned are convulsing but not up yet. Going for the keys, Rin gets grabbed, but gets the door open and locked before the maintenance man can get in. As she checks the security footage, she sees many people are getting absolutely bodied. Singh and the loud youngling that never shuts up enters his mom's room as they now learn they need to go to the 5th floor. One of the infected is going goblin mode trying to move, which then alerts the other infected as the youngling laughs. brother, stop making so much noise. You ever hear of the quiet game? Well, it's time to start playing it. Getting stuck in one guy's room, he says there is no escape. They are all going to die, as he injects something into his father to take him out, as he does the same for himself. Yes, again, that youngling will need even more therapy after witnessing that. I don't know if he has any precociousness left, but it's definitely gone. As everyone on the bed is torn apart, they nope out through the window. I like how Singh just straight up leaves the kid behind. Climbing, a woman in a bunny costume then starts attacking the youngling as Singh comes back to him, taking out the infected and grabbing him. See, that's why you shouldn't make so much noise, like you now learn. Shut up. As we see a banner that says, "Trust your government."
Me, Greg, the editor, a Filipino.
Well, I'm going to say trust but verify. I've heard that over the last year quite a few times. It's a great way to approach anything that the government is doing, or individuals. Pretty much trust but verify. Back at the hospital, Rin is now just vibing and hiding. Maybe a little bit of crying, you know, all the classics. As she sees on camera the man with the fishmonger idea is just kind of unbothered, I suppose. Going room to room, Singh and the youngling keep looking for his mother, as one woman is squaring up with a piece of rebar. It actually is the youngling's mother, who I am now certain will survive all of this. No way Singh and his wife are going to have to adopt this youngling. That's just not going to happen. Why would you even think that? Giving him his inhaler, Singh is then told Rin is on the 10th floor, which, oh lord, his mom has been bit. Here we go. She asks him to take care of her son, as then he takes him away, which is gonna need even more therapy. So with actual mom of the year, like I'm not even joking about that, turning, veins begin appearing, signaling massive inflammation as in the NICU. The offspring then kind of runs back to his mom, who has already turned, which is not ideal. But hearing newborns cry, she then goes and focuses on that as Singh grabs the offspring and goes to get out of there while mom is snacking on some newborns. Spawn camping.
Oh, the newborns. That's why'd you have to do the newborns dirty like that?
Horrific, but acceptable strategy, I suppose. Just like camping, it is a legitimate strategy. Rin at this point runs to the room with company man as Rin is hyperventilating. He tells her to calm down, which, listen to Papa Roanoke, you never want to say that, alright? I'm just pointing that out. So he says help is on the way and she doesn't need to do anything. You sure about that, boss man? Looking out, an order is sent in to get boss man out of the hospital. Oh, so they'll go in and get that guy, but nobody else? Nice. Money talks, I suppose. So youngling now has a breakdown, like I said, precociousness loss, and is replaced by a traumatic childhood arc. Those are the best, sure to follow you well into adulthood and color every interaction you have with anyone ever. Yeehaw. Back at Boss Man's room, he talks to his wife as he sees she's almost out of blood. Is she a vampire? He says he saved this country from extinction, but now he can't cure his own wife. Evidently, though, Boss Man, he actually is a real one, as he's been there for 5 years trying to cure his wife. He needs more blood, though, for her, as Rin says she will go get some. But as it turns out, there really isn't a villain in this movie, just people trying to survive and people trying to get food. Dang. I guess the manglerfish are actually the ones we should be turning against, which actually has always been in alignment with my stance anyways. Hashtag nuke the angler. Singh then tells Youngling that he should come with them as they are going to move north when they get out of there. Which, I mean, was he gonna say no? He's got nothing else going on. Finding a charge, they have 30 minutes to get out of there, which coincidentally is exactly how much time is left on the movie. I love it when a plan comes together. Rin now goes and seeks more blood for the blood wife, and moving through the hallways quietly.
Blood for the blood god. Bones for the skulls for the skull throne. Milk for the cornflakes.
Muay Thai expert and youngling find Rin's necklace as he spots her in the distance. Calling out to get the infected's attention, we get some sick music, which you can't hear because it's probably copyright, as then he uses a cart to block the infected while a team moves through to take out the other infected in a different area of the hospital. Rin then starts getting attacked as Bossman and his wife are now moved out of the area. Rin says something to Singh, but I mean, I have no idea what she's mouthing here, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, there were no subtitles, and this movie clearly is in a different language. So maybe it's just, I don't know, get good, get better at fighting the manglerfish. Whatever. A larger infected variant then begins its attack, which you'd think, given the scarcity of food, that would be a difficult task for this guy to achieve. Anyhow, Youngling then uses the fire extinguisher to obscure its vision and smoke up the room. Particulates in the air making you cough. Wonderful. Ren then makes a noise as Singh goes goblin mode on him. Hell yeah, brother. Meanwhile, the security team is getting absolutely shreked. You would think it wouldn't be this difficult given they are armed, but hey, what do I know? Walking out, Singh then immediately gets shot, ow, as Rin then tells him not to fall asleep. Well, his collarbone is definitely shattered from that shot. Enjoy a paralyzer. Rin is being taken away as...
Great movie reference. Oh, I love it.
Singh now starts beating wholesale ass because he did not get the another paralyzer, and they start dropping like a Walmart security team. This whole thing can be solved by simply being like, yo, I am her husband/boyfriend and I am not infected. That's all I'm saying, like a little bit of communication. They don't really need to be doing any of this. Team lead also sucks at fighting and is only winning because of the bullet nerf. An infected then shows up to attack as bro, hell yeah, it becomes about trading punches. Again, hey man, not infected. That's my girlfriend. We are leaving. That's it. That's all you have to do. So anyways, not doing that, because who's going to listen to Roanoke? They just knock each other out, because caveman brain better than frontal lobe brain, as Meal Team 6 is being eaten in the background. Being dragged off, Rin now has him, which you better hope this is only a saliva-based infection, because you are completely getting contaminated with blood at this point. Taking the bullet out and wrapping his shoulder, Rin then tells him he needs to rest. Well, you don't have time for that. The charges are already set. Time to bail. Have I mentioned I am disgusted and offended by the vector of this infection? I feel like it's been too long since I mentioned that. Telling him to rest again, you guys seriously don't have time to do that. Sitting up, okay, I guess they were just girlfriend and boyfriend, as she agrees to marry him with the hexagon ring, which would have been better if it was an octagon, given, you know, Muay Thai and whatnot. Youngling now opens the door to the hallway of horrors, watching security snack on one another. They have 15 minutes left on the charges, and opening the door, they lure in Meal Team 6 leader, dousing him in alcohol as he is now then lit on fire. Well, that's a good way to get rid of him. Rin then covers the youngling's eyes, as they cannot afford the therapy bill at this point, as then they decide to leave. As water falls, the infected all start going absolutely goblin mode. Oh, sweet God, their mouths are changing. See, I didn't think it was gonna get worse, but worse it gets. Rin now tracks down Boss Man as she begins responding to the water. As in, his wife begins responding to the water. She's awake as she has clearly changed. Angler mouth engaged as then she bites Boss Man. Ouchies. Well, let's just say this is gonna be the end of the episode here. Thanks for watching. Alright, I'm back. Bro, gross. Anyhow, he is then swarmed by everyone else and torn apart. Actually, he wasn't a bad dude. He just had money to get rescued, and now his heart is tore out? Okay. Exiting to the parking garage, the mangler fish are on their tail. Call down a hell bomb on my position. Napalm strike, walking barrage, anything.
Fucking hell divers.
Squares up to give them time to escape, the masculine urge to stay behind and hold off a horde. Getting to the roof, a helicopter is waiting as Rin is asked if she's infected. The guard does a horrible job of confirming if she's infected or not, as then he's informed the entire team that went in to rescue Bossman is gone, and then they tell the guy to wait for Singh. They have 5 minutes before they need to bail out of there. I mean, pretty Chad-like of that guy to at least like give him a chance. At least, you know, he was able to do that. Back at the station wagon, well, this is a crappy situation you got going on here. The manglers are breaking in, going after Singh, as the whole thing then just blows up. How exactly? Who detonated it? Well, I think personally, the car didn't want to be around these things and exploding was preferable. I mean, I get its plight. Apart from the car becoming sentient and immediately choosing death, your guess is as good as mine. This has heavily injured the manglers who were there, who are now all mangled. Thank God. Singh, however, I mean, he might be deaf now, but he's okay. Deciding now is the time and this is the place, he has 3 minutes to get out of there as the helicopter then starts taking off. Singh makes it up to the roof as then he sits there. Brother, get up and run. Worry about the lifetime of tinnitus later. Making it to his feet, all he can hear is eeeeee, which will probably hit him pretty bad. Station wagon explosions will do that, and walking to the helicopter like a cool guy, I think you should probably move a little quicker than that, right? Rin is then telling his tail to hurry up, but he just kind of stands there. It takes off without him as the infected then break onto the rooftop as it all becomes Jet Li at the end of the one, with him going absolutely ham on a group of infected as the whole building is then collapsed. Well, that would be terrible to watch. So everyone has a nice cry, as one can hope it's Commander Shepard at the end of Mass Effect 3 if you did everything correct, and then you end up breathing. It's very hard to get that ending. Fast forwarding, Rin is now somewhere else. I'm guessing up north like they had agreed to, which if farmland still exists up there and seems quite viable, why was food still an issue? Also, no way Singh survived. I absolutely knew it. And thus concludes Zyam. And now that I've had time to think about it, why didn't he just get on the helicopter if he was not actually infected? I really don't understand that thinking. Regardless,
I don't think it's realistically possible that he would survive a collapsing building that is more than 15 fucking stories high. Ain't no fucking way.
Once again, thus concludes Zion. Welcome to the science portion, where we are going to get into man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Well, I suppose a lot of this has to do with nature as well, but according to the movie, we sort of deep-fried the planet ourselves and made a big oopsie-doopsies on that one. Not an ideal situation. So everything started getting worse for our species, and realistically, in this timeline, I'm also still alive, possibly, so knowing that these things are also in the area on the same planet as me, truly, this is a cursed timeline. So let's start from the beginning, as we need to understand how we could even get to this point in the first place. First and foremost, we are not 100% sure what is even in the depths of the ice. I believe I covered this in my The Thaw episode, which, thanks for reminding me, I actually need to go back and fight copyright on that. Anyhow, Earth itself has frozen many times over the past and has also completely lost its ice in the past. It goes through these cycles every few, tens of millions of years or so, and currently it appears that we are in a warming period given that the ice is melting. Of course, based on records, it's melting apparently faster than it should, but y'all can have the climate change debate on that one. I'm just here to talk about the true threat, anglerfish infections. The first time the ice advanced over the surface of the Earth was during the last ice age, around 100,000 years ago to as close as 20,000 years ago. Basically, it just got warm out here on Earth timeline of how long Earth has been around. Much of the planet around this time was significantly cooler than it is today, with ice advancing well down into the continental US and large ice sheets over much of Europe and Russia, which I feel like Russia still has to deal with that, but sea levels were lower by roughly about 410 feet in the Lord's units, or in the heathenistic metric units, which I don't think anybody actually uses. This was about 125 meters. Hashtag abolish the metric system. This meant that a lot of continents looked different, and areas around islands once separated now actually became connected, forming land bridges quite regularly, or significantly decreasing the distance one would have to canoe to the next island. This allowed man to actually expand quite effectively across the areas that may have been much more difficult otherwise. And this is also the time frame that Beringia would have formed between Russia and Alaska, which was the land bridge that connected the two continents. In this time frame, there are also other processes going on that you may not actively be thinking about. The surface of the planet was absolutely inundated with microbes, much like how it is now. I mentioned the megaviruses a little earlier in the video, which we will kind of go more in depth here in a moment, but also bacteria would be swept up in those ice sheets locked in time. Depending on the location when they got trapped, or also the time frame, life would continue on evolving, and these ancient forms of life would be stuck in a stasis-like state. Very likely in an endospore type of state, meaning no change at all. But you might be asking, what is an endospore? Essentially, when a bacteria enters a hostile environment, it will desiccate its own cell body and then cease almost all metabolic activity. The outside shell will actually harden somewhat, and it will become essentially just like a package of genetics that waits until the environment becomes much more habitable. Sort of sounds a bit like a virus, doesn't it? I actually always wondered if there's a connection between some ancient form of bacteria that entered an endospore stage, and then it just really never came out of it as its metabolism ramped back up, and it became more virus-coded, as the Gen Z would say. I mean, if that does sound crazy, I think it's always important to also remember that multicellular animal reproduction literally has sperm crack through egg cell membranes, much like a virus would. Where did it learn this behavior? Well, we could talk about that all day, but know that an endospore can actually exist in this state for millions of years and still be viable. It is absolutely wild. Now that the ice was melting, some of these bacteria would find themselves in a much more habitable environment, which would then in turn cause them to exit out of the endospore state and then proliferate as they tend to do. In the movie, this inundation of an unknown bacteria would then make much of the fish whose immune system never actually dealt with this before kind of die off, creating this mass extinction of fish. Obviously, this would be catastrophic for the fishing communities, leading to many people to begin meeting their end due to famine. However, there is another playmate that existed within the ice that I believe is actually causing the issues that we have seen. As I have mentioned prior, there are absolute freaks of nature by our current standards in the permafrost and ice. Known as megaviruses, these things are gigantic, which is actually why it does make me wonder if there is a connection between the endospore and it just kind of never stopped endosporing and eventually it became invasive. Again, we already know some bacteria can actually actively invade cells now. Something like Salmonella, for instance, will enter your cells quite regularly during the infection process, which is not ideal for you, as you may have guessed. It reproduces within that space just like a virus would, and then it exits out of the cell. I believe there is probably a connection of sorts here, but again, take that with a grain of salt. It's never really been confirmed, I guess. Anyhow, these megaviruses of the past exist right now in our waters. Were they trapped in the ice? Very likely, but what we do know is the largest one that we have found has 1,259,197 base pairs, which is a double strand of DNA. They contain up to 1,120 protein coding genes and actually contain tRNA synthases, which initially were not known in any other viruses. For reference, the common cold virus or rhinovirus contains about 7,200 base pairs, only 0.5% of the overall genetic coding that a megavirus actually has. So functionally, what we are dealing with is an organism that begins to kind of blur the line between virus and prokaryote. It's important to keep in the forefront of your mind that the more genes it has, the more it's able to operate with complexity, which means possibly more abilities. Now you may be saying, well, Roanoke banana has 520 to 600 million base pairs. Well, yes, but I think we would all agree a banana actually is a little more complex, even though it doesn't appear to be doing anything. The complexity of a banana on a cellular level and the metabolic level is, well, difficult to explain. I mean, it's a eukaryotic cell. It's doing a lot. It just didn't specialize.
I don't understand pretty much any of this. I am not science smart.
In invading your body, I suppose, unless you eat the banana. Which, to a degree, I mean, you know, if you think about it, fruits were really created by plants so that animals could eat them in a lot of cases, and then the seeds would be carried far away. So, actually, you know what? They were specializing in invading your body. Anyways, the real question is, why would you bring up the banana question? So we're just gonna move on. Did you bring that up or did I bring that up? Pretty sure I brought that up. So let's assume for a minute that the older ice is now like the really old ice. The ice that has been there since the last great thaw when Earth literally had no ice around about 56 million years ago. That means something from this time frame, potentially a really old form of virus, living in the oceans decided, you know what, I'm gonna head up north for funsies, and then got trapped by the freezing process. There is obviously quite a bit of time that would have passed by now, so it sat there for 56 million years before being released into the oceans once more and going and screwing with the aquatic life. As it was adapted to the frigid temperatures, it would then drift deep into the ocean where it would meet another abomination much like itself, the anglerfish, or some are going to call this the monkfish. Look, I don't know which one it is, all I know is I hate it. Let's all agree. Plus, I believe it's an anglerfish due to the angle I'm taking this video, mainly because of an x-ray conducted. As this virus with several millions base pairs infected the anglerfish, this would create a cascade of issues for not just the fish, but also for humans down the line. So now we need to talk about probably the worst thing about this video. Nobody would blame you for clicking off. Hell, I don't even want to write about it. But as we all know, Ray Ray Ghost is a masochist, so here we go. The life cycle of an anglerfish has the garden variety phrase sexual parasitism used quite often. They don't work like animals where the Lord's light touches, living deep within the darkness. I mean, A, it's because they don't have to look at each other, and 2, we don't have to look at them. Life is harsh, but only because they deserve it. Okay, that's enough. I'm genuinely disgusted, but I can't keep using my hate for these things as a vehicle to talk about them. Just know everything spoken past this point, I have a legitimate sneer on my face. So, the male and the female dynamic is a bit strange, I guess depending on who you ask. The male anglerfish is many times smaller than the female, and rather than copulate in a way that's actually fun, they have elected to just bite into the side of the female. From here, they will release enzymes that will actually dissolve their mouths and face into the flesh of the female. At this point, their entire body will atrophy. Intestines, musculature, brain, eyes, all of that just kind of goes away. They will functionally just become a set of gonads. And I think we all know a guy like that. Their own bloodstreams fuse with the females to keep their nads alive, as then they continually support reproduction by supplying sperm to the female for when she wants to reproduce. Their life is now officially attached to the female, and they live and expire based on what happens to her. I know. This is why I always find it funny when a guy goes to like the store with his girlfriend and he kind of like hugs her from behind as she pays for him. It's called the broke guy hug. Really, it's all based on the anglerfish mentality, so you should probably pity them. And that statement definitely made somebody upset. Moving on. So how this relates to today's video, I believe you are seeing the vision here, but let's get into not only the infection origins based on context clues, but also the literal physiological changes to the human meat suit, as actually it does make a lot of sense. As we see, the fish itself is an anglerfish. Upon eating the contaminated meat, the infection begins to spread. But what exactly is the infection itself? I believe at some point during the ice melt, a megavirus was released into the water, which we have discussed, and this would drift down, infect the actual anglerfish that may have already had the gonads attached to the female. The important part to remember is that the males already exhibit parasitic behavior naturally, surviving off the female exclusively, becoming nothing more than this set of gonads. Now, what exactly does this mean in like the grand scheme of things? Well, interestingly, gonads and the nervous system, at least in humans, are considered to be immune privileged sites. Also, fat is too, but that's because your immune system just doesn't really have great access to in between those spaces. But this means that the immune system has to use kind of a deft touch in these areas. Like if it whole asses an attack on the nervous system, that could actually damage it, causing massive issues concerning survival. If it attacks your gonads, then that could render you sterile, which also not good for continuation of your genetics. If it, for females, doesn't like calm down when the fertilized egg is trying to implant onto the side of the wall, it'll end up just killing the eggs, and also that ruins reproduction. So the immune system has to it has to protect you, but it has to walk a fine line to do it. So it's likely, given the female anglerfish's ability to not immediately have her immune system attack the male that really just burrowed into the side of her body, that likely this area is also immune privileged. So what are the consequences of this? Within the males, you now have what is essentially a breeding ground completely uninterrupted for this megavirus that the female's immune system really never touches. As a result of this, you have viruses proliferating to a massive degree within these areas, interacting with the male's testes and sperm. Actually, in human males, I'm sure we all remember the virus of 2020. A lot of men reported gonad pain because the virus was replicating pretty much in their balls. Hopefully that doesn't become a problem later in life. Granted, the mumps kind of does the same thing and people can still reproduce after that, typically, although some males are rendered sterile, which kind of brings forth, it's going to be interesting to see what the effects of that era was in about another 20 years or so. But anyhow, so this is rather important to the whole infection process. You have an unknown virus interacting with genetic information of a species beyond just the somatic cells. It may be that this company actually did clear out all the bacteria in the female's body, the fish that they were catching, and that the virus itself was being kept in check by her own immune system. But what they forgot to check for was the male testes being immune privileged. As these fish were caught and cleaned, the company would have assumed that the fish was now edible and good to go. However, we see evidence that Scarface didn't immediately begin having issues after his consumption, as he told everybody, "The fish is great." Like, that was not the first piece of fish he ate, is basically what I'm saying. It is likely that given the area the fish was actually caught at, this means it was really never frozen, as is custom with their cultures, and this meant that the males that served as virus reservoirs were really never tested, nor frozen off to be killed. And even if you did freeze it, it's kind of an unknown if the virus would have also died with it. So when Scarface gets an x-ray later, his body is absolutely inundated with what appeared to be parasites, which are highly likely to be the male anglerfish. My God, what a world. Now, what sort of issues would this present? I believe it shows us during the transformation process. Given the amount of males in his body, phrasing, I see hundreds. These are all attached to blood vessels and are dumping this virus into his body the whole time, but given the virus's interaction with the template of anglerfish, known as sperm, it appears genetic coding was actually taken and applied to Scarface. But then as always, how is that possible? Again, megaviruses are a bit new to the human race. We are not 100% sure how dangerous they could actually be for humanity, but what we do know is that they are much more complex than standard viruses that we have now, at least for the most part. What we do know is that, as always, you knew it was going to come up, 8% of the human genome is actually thought to be ancient viruses, which hilariously actually protects us from infection by current viruses to a degree. Who would have guessed? But these viruses implant themselves into the very genetics due to viral enzymes known as integrase. Essentially, the virus goes from its original form, which is RNA, then utilized in reverse transcriptase, it will become viral DNA, which then integrase enzymes will actually implant it into the genome of a eukaryotic cell. Now you may ask, well, what is the purpose of that? It's actually massively effective, and it's like a total douche move by viruses, if I'm being totally honest. From that point on, your body will really have no way to remove the virus from your cellular DNA. Of course, once CRISPR is basically mastered by our species, we're really just using our body to remove the virus. Just we're more using our brain to remove the virus, but still our body. Basically, we're just not relying on nature anymore. We're relying on nature in order to do it, but it's kind of meta because we're still using our bodies to remove the virus. So in the end, we win. Whenever this area of the DNA is read, more of this virus will actually be created, which is why it wants to implant into your genome in the first place. This is actually how HIV operates and why it is so difficult to keep under control, that and also the mutagenic nature of HIV in general. But this same process can be applied here to this infection. Given the complexity of the hypothesized megavirus being released into the oceans and then infecting the anglerfish, much like how sometimes the host genomes can be incorporated into the viral genome of, a different disease, I guess, or different virus, and this is pretty much accomplished through just a standard mechanism of viral replication, I believe the anglerfish genome is also integrated into the megavirus genome as well, and given the males also serve as a reservoir for this virus upon eating contaminated fish, this in turn would expose humans to the anglerfish genome through a process known as horizontal gene transfer. The reason we even have this term is because this process is well known. It's a sharing of genetic material between two unrelated organisms, which actually we now believe may help drive evolution and adaptation. This can happen through viral infections, as well as through mostly what we see, which is conjugation in bacteria. Conjugation, obviously, being when the pilus comes out and then stabs another bacteria, and then they just kind of share plasmids. It's kind of like how antibiotic resistance kind of crops up. But to show what is happening once humanity is infected, it's quite clear this is a multi-pronged issue those infected are dealing with. First, the human immune system has never encountered anything like this before. As a result, while things like the random chance of B cells being able to produce antibodies to it is pretty much 100% assured, the innate immune system does not appear to have enough time to actually address this problem. It is quickly sidestepped by these larger viruses, as the macrophages may not even be able to properly engulf them given their size. Seeing that the virus has been reproducing and interacting with anglerfish genomes for quite some time in isolation, it's pretty obvious that the genes of the anglerfish, possibly the Hox genes in some cases, but it's going to require other genes as well, they have to a degree contaminated the megavirus itself through standard viral replication processes, which happens all the time. Again, I like to say it, but if you get sick from your friend from a virus, it's possible some of their genome is now in some of your cells. So once invading humans, those that ate the meat and the males would have their own bodies become patient zero for this infection. It is not an immediate process, but is absolutely diabolical as a testing ground. Given the males are likely still alive, at first the virus may have not really known how to enter the cells of Scarface in particular, but over time, a shift would happen and the human cell would be unlocked through the virus jumping species. Being zoonotic in nature, this happens quite a bit given the exposure amount. I mean, look at swine flu, it jumped from pigs to humans. Granted, this is jumping from a fish to a human, so it's a little bit more difficult, but it's already in his body, so it could happen. Scarface was sure the food was safe because at first the virus couldn't jump to him, so he had no symptoms. But as he ate more, eventually he would be inundated with the parasite and the virus. As this process continued, he would reach the point where once one of the viruses eventually was able to be, capable of infecting a human cell, it would then proliferate rapidly, leading to his rapid decompensation. From here, it appears the virus mainly builds up within the mouth of an individual. It's hard to know if the blood itself serves as a vector for the infection, but given the males very clearly are attaching to the bloodstreams, I think patient zeros who actually ate the anglerfish, that would serve as a vector, like bloodborne. However, in those who were only bitten, very likely they do not contain enough of the virus within their bloodstream, and also they probably don't contain any of the males either in their bodies, so instead they're just simply infected with the megavirus, and as a result of that, it is highly likely, it's sort of like with rabies, which unfortunately, it's not rabies this time, I know, devastating, but it would build up in their salivary glands most clearly, as when a person is bitten, they immediately begin to change. However, there are two phases to this infection given environmental conditions, acute and then chronic. The acute phase of this infection will cause the megavirus to be introduced into the system, or at least once it's introduced into the system, this is when the acute phase starts. This will result in blood clotting and blood vessels actually bursting, and this may be due to the size of the virus or the ensuing cytokine storm. I'm inclined to believe it's the cytokines that are involved, but what exactly is that? When your body realizes that it's losing the fight to any sort of pathogen, it will engage in the nuclear option. A cytokine storm ensues, which is essentially mass inflammation. This will typically result in your end, and most medical interventions are designed to basically, we need to prevent that from happening, because once that happens, it becomes incredibly difficult to keep anybody alive. It's literally the puppy holding up a tank of propane with a lighter. That's your immune system saying, I'm going to take everybody out. Your body really will burn it all down to prevent the infection from outright winning. As this happens, the person's circulatory system is heavily compromised, leading to blood pressure tanking and very likely bleeding internally. Basically, you get leaky vessels, which is why they appear to turn black. This will result in a flatline, but only momentarily. It's likely all cells in the body become affected at a certain point as the virus enters the genomes of cells, and in general may disrupt electrical activity at least for a minute, but then it will restart, which is how the...
Yeah, you will literally be cooked. God, this is also friggin' scientific. I am struggling to understand any of it.
part itself actually restarts. We have seen this symptomatically present itself as a blackening of the sclera in the eyes as well as the iris, at least concerning cellular, invasion. Along with this, the brain is heavily affected, shutting down the more heavy thinking areas to have them fall back on instinct. It would seem the virus really does not prefer one cell over another. If it is able to be invaded, it will do it. And this seems to suggest it may actually attach to the MHC receptor of a cell and then enter the cell. The MHC class 1 being the multi-histocompatibility complex 1 that cells present on their surface to identify as self so that the immune system does not attack. All nucleated cells should have these that are supposed to be there. Neurons of the central nervous system, as well as like the corneal and sperm, and also the placenta cells, really don't have these though, so it's not like every cell is invaded, but you have enough cells that have already been invaded. Anyhow, as these cells are invaded, it's clear the virus would behave as it normally does, which results in very likely the Hox genes from the horizontal gene transfer being implanted into the human genome, at least to a degree. The Hox genes are crucial for specifying like different body parts and what they're going to be, which will likely be more pressing later as the infection continues. But we need to talk about the clearest formation that we see up front, which is basically the chronic infection at this point because it's inducing physical changes, and that would be the mouth. When water begins falling on those infected, it's clear this stimulus results in the splitting of cheeks on the face, mind out of the gutter. As the jaw expands and the teeth rapidly grow in similar shape to like an anglerfish itself, it's important to understand that this process highlights just how much of the genome has been taken from the anglerfish and implanted into the human genome when the virus implanted itself. So here we go. Get out your pens and papers. We assume the anglerfish has compatible areas of its genome, but in humans, we call it something else. So in humans, the PAX9 gene is there for development of the teeth. The MSX1 and MSX2 genes determine location. The DLX family of genes regulate the actual jaw and tooth growth. The PITX2 regulates epithelial growth, like the cheek tissue and the mouth formation. And the SOX9 gene indicates how the craniofacial development is going to play out. The names are not so much important, but given the jaw formation, all of these genes would be virtually, you could say, replaced, and along with that, mitosis itself would need to be amplified and increased in order to actually have the jaw form like an anglerfish's mouth. This is all being dictated by genetics. It would appear that the presence of water ultimately causes the cells to behave in a way that is triggered by other genes implanted by the virus that were picked up from the anglerfish. This in turn causes the mutations to appear or seem to appear out of nowhere. This tipping point indicates the next stage of the infection has been reached. Due to this, it's hard to know exactly how much of the anglerfish genome was implanted into the person, but it's highly likely that if the virus was allowed to persist, you may actually see a complete hybridization of human and anglerfish. Their bodies would continue to change to probably almost become like a nightmare version of the Zora species in Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. This hybridization is more extreme, like considering a version of adaptations we have already seen in viruses, sometimes inspired through horizontal gene transfer. The only thing is more genes, more ability to possibly transfer a larger amount of genetic information means more adaptation, even if it's not really an adaptation that we would want, because one of the things to always remember is how fit are you for your environment. The human species, we are giant nerds, right? It's kind of how we have succeeded. However, that doesn't mean that our build is ultimately the best build in the world. You have, if you took a human and you put them in an anglerfish environment, the human dies. But if you took an anglerfish, you put it in the human environment, the anglerfish dies. Now, if you have something that does both, they might be able to survive a little longer. The point is, being fit for your environment doesn't necessarily mean being the most intelligent either. But anyhow, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to hear what you think. Hybridization or, cracked out anglerfish zombies. What a friggin' movie, man. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed. I will drop my Twitter, Discord, Patreon, and channel links in the description. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank mine real quick. At the Astrophysicist tier, we have Death's Dancer. Thank you, sir.
Well, that was interesting and very scientific. Pretty much almost all of it I could not really understand at all. Because I am not a science nerd. But that is one heck of a virus to infect people and change them in such a way. I still have yet to find a virus that is worse than the T and the C virus from Resident Evil.
Well, that is the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give a like and subscribe. I post videos 3 to 5 days a week here. I also post videos over on my other channel for gaming as well, so please make sure to give that a look-see, see if you enjoy that as well. I also stream anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week as well. Links to all my social medias will be on my YouTube page. And with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.